Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. Here to talk about Suzanne's former chaos and savior, Suzanne Allbee, who is the CEO of Be Organized Seattle. And you guys, everyone, our listeners, they changed my life. And I am so grateful. And Suzanne, you know, as a senior, I'm a senior, 67 years old, crazy. But I can't do the things I used to do anymore. You know, I can't, you know, I don't have the stamina. I don't have the ability to, you know, lift things. I have a bad foot, so I have mobility challenges a little bit. And so obviously, you know, living in clutter is accident crazy, you know, hazards all over the place. How have you noticed people of their lifestyle, how their quality of life changes?
You know, it's significant, actually. So many seniors, I think of downsizing as moving into a senior facility or some other environment that isn't their home. But you can downsize in your own space. You can declutter and downsize and end up in a home that works for your needs, your new needs, perhaps, and also your lifestyle. So, you know, I think one of the biggest things is really recognizing how your home is functioning for you or not.
Yeah.
And calling in some help to do that, to make it work.
And I'm sure you work with a lot of seniors out there. What are the biggest challenges with seniors as a whole?
The sense of overwhelm. They don't even know where to begin. You know, it's a daunting task, especially if you have been in your home for 10, 20, 30, sometimes 50 years. The idea of going through your things is overwhelming. We get that. You know, there's a sense of not wanting to burdening family or friends.
It's the pride factor. Well, and I think the other thing, I remember when I was moving my mother out, you know, into assisted living, she had boxes of every single picture I drew in elementary school. She had programs for piano recitals. I mean, my mother saved those things. And it's like, it was interesting because yes, it was my childhood, but they didn't relate to me specifically, but they related to her of, you know, the growing years and things like that. How do you help people decipher, you know, what you need to save and what you don't?
That's a very good question. And everyone is different, but we do have one tool called our organizing profiles that we use quite often. It's a short quiz on our website that basically helps us identify how people relate to their stuff. Why are they holding on to something? You know, are you holding on to it for a sentimental reason, or maybe because you paid a lot of money for it? You can't rationalize getting rid of it, or maybe you're holding on to something just in case you might need it someday. So once we kind of have a better idea of why you're holding on to your things, we can help you go through those things and filter. We are really wanting to celebrate what's special and let everything else go.
And I'm sure that there's a lot of seniors my age that their kids are grown up. They're looking at a big house and they're going, you know, we're going to move to a condo. And so what do they end up doing is they buy a storage locker. I'm assuming that goes on a lot. Does it not?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's one of my biggest, I don't know if I'd call it a pet peeve, but it hurts my heart to think about the thousands and thousands of dollars that are being spent on storage lockers, and people don't even know what's inside them. You know, it is one of the largest growing industries is that storage locker component because the baby boomers are aging. What do I do with my stuff? I'm just going to put it in here
and deal with it later. And then later never comes, right?
Exactly. So, it becomes the problem of a family or friend.
Yeah, we did a similar thing but thank goodness for my husband. He's the one that said, honey, if it's not being used now, we're getting rid of it. And I'm just going like, it was hard at first because a lot of the stuff I was hanging on to was stuff with my mother, you know, from my mom, and they didn't fit me, but I was going like, I would betray her memory if I got rid of this. So it sat in a box. It was stupid. It was ridiculous. And I think those are some of the things that, you know, we can think about how often, what kind of mind tricks does our mind do? You know, to us, and why are we so attached to things? And I think one of the things that Kata and Holly really helped me is like, Suzanne, this is a thing. I was hanging on to two chairs that need to be reupholstered that I have no room for in my house. Now, why? And finally, it's like, no, I'm not getting rid of these. I'm not getting rid of these. And my husband begged me to get rid of them. And it's like, no, they were. And finally, Kata and Holly, they sat there and said, Suzanne, you don't have room for them. What are you going to do next? You're 67. When you leave this house, it's probably going to be, when it's time to go even smaller. So here's the thing, let somebody else have it, go some. And that's what we did finally. And my husband went, thank you. Well, amazing.
As you're talking about that, I'm thinking of two different things, or several things actually. One, hard reality is your kids don't want your stuff. Like, no,
they don't.
It's the truth. That generation lives very differently, very much more minimalistic. They don't want the same things. However, there is a case for wanting to maintain a memory. And, myself, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, quilt, there's probably 100 quilts in our family.
Yeah.
Do I need to save everyone? No. But I can choose one or two to save and actually use, or showcase in some way in my home. Celebrate those special things. But there's got to be, you've just got to let go. It lifts a burden.
It is. And the thing that's so interesting, I don't even miss them. I walk in there and they go, this room looks so nice. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Here I am on Amazon looking at some shelving, like a wall unit, so that I can get the rest of the stuff put away and done nicely. And I thought, this is the way to live. And I realized now that I started to free myself of things, I find myself throwing so much more, even more away, or donating more stuff. And it's crazy. It's just kind of fun. And I have found a place in my house that I can just put, I'm going to donate these. And so as soon as I have a load, then I just put them in my car and I take off and I do that. So, obviously we talked a little bit about spouses burden. What do you find with either spouses or children, the dynamic? You said something about everybody has to be on the same page. How do you find that most families get there?
I think it's really identifying what's important to each family. It's not a competition of who has the most stuff. Unfortunately, our culture is can be very materialistic. We buy a lot. It's easier to buy things. You just click on Amazon at 1 a.m. and it's there, the next day you're home.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of money on stuff. Stuff doesn't bring happiness. It's the experience of life that does bring happiness. And I think, to get everybody on the same page, the key is really to show the benefit. And sometimes we might just start with one space. Maybe it's your entry of your living room.
That's it. Yeah.
Get one done.
I love that. And you know what? We're going to talk a little bit more about how the process begins. And Suzanne, in the meantime, Be Organized is in many cities across the USA. We have other interviews talking about this process, but we're going to dive in a little bit more. And you can go to beorganized.com/Seattle if you're in the Seattle area. To reach out to Suzanne, or just go to beorganized.com, and I bet you'll find them in your neighborhood. We'll be right back right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you could discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.